Hello. So today we are talking about mistakes that handlers and trainers typically make when the dog makes a mistake. Um, One of the things I've really noticed especially in the competition world, but it's also been in the canine world, um, is the fear of the dog making a mistake, not even wanting to acknowledge it. And by doing that, you're opening a whole world of all other kinds of mistakes that dog is going to end up making by not acknowledging the mistakes. Mistakes are normal. Mistakes, even the machine odor detectors, they're not 100% accurate. In fact, a lot of times the dogs end up being more accurate than the machine because the dog can pick up on things that those things can't. But I saw this one video. The aide was hit the trash can, and the dog smelled all around the trash can and moved on. And she was like, "Oh, we can't let that happen. I know he smelled it. He was just distracted." No, you don't know that the dog smelled it. If you watch the video, the dog doesn't even throw a change. She just presents somewhere, and then the dog, puts his nose there, and she clicks. What happens is we actually end up sometimes reinforcing a behavior that we didn't mean to. Could be the dog not searching, and relying on you. If if that dog did smell odor and didn't go to response, then now we're reinforcing him going, "Oh, well, we'll give you another chance and you can get it the second time." Uh, there's so many different behaviors that you might end up reinforcing. Um, by not allowing the dog to make that mistake and just being able to move on. And we'll get to how you fix that later. And also, too, the dog then becomes reliant on you. If that dog makes a mistake, and I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I bring the dog back. But a lot of times it's too, if I haven't presented properly, I'll catch myself. I haven't presented properly to where I put that dog in the right position. Then the dog becomes reliant on you showing him where to go, as opposed to, if you watch when I actually do present, I never present like with little no go. The aide was behind the trash can and it was right next to a wall, a little section of a wall. And I touched the wall. I didn't touch the trash can or behind the trash can. I touched the wall because if odor was going to be, I touched the wall where odor is going to be coming out. And you actually see her come around the trash can and then go, "Oh, wait a minute." And then she goes and gets it. I'm already moving along to my next presentation. And if she would have missed it, then I recorded. And that's one of the things that was the biggest problem is if we don't allow the dog to make the mistake, we can't record it and we can't find the real reason for the mistake. Record keeping is, you're starting to place things up high all the time. You're starting to place things in the same types of containers, the same, amounts, that kind of stuff. Because we're not as random as we think. We are, biased. Also too, if we don't allow them to make the mistake and we can't record it, it could have nothing to do with odor and everything to do with the time. How long that aid has been out. I mean, there's so many other factors, and you can't ever get to the real reason if you don't allow the dog to make the mistake and then record it and train from there. One of the big things, false responses. There's this stupid saying, it doesn't count as a false response if you don't call alert. That's like saying if nobody smells your fart that you didn't fart. You still farted. So nobody smelled it. Doesn't mean you didn't fart. It still happened. And false responses, unfortunately, y'all have this 5 types of false response. No, there's only one. The other ones are handler errors. Those there's when the dog responds to an area where the target odor is not present, or to where something, a distracting odor. Basically, the main thing it comes down to is the target odor isn't present. That's a false response. The blurts, the Hail Marys, the contrived finds, those are all handler errors. Even the fringes, that's a handler error. That's a training error. So ignoring your false responses, just because, like I said, just because someone didn't smell your fart doesn't mean you didn't fart. And sometimes we are making the mistake. We don't know it. And again, that comes down to training records. There's always a pattern, and you will always find it. My father, one time, it was one of the first ones I'd done on my own, and started moving to unknown problems. And I couldn't understand why he was false responding. And I looked in all the records. I couldn't find it. My dad spent 2 days with me, and he started noticing, even when I would run the known ones, Scooter wouldn't false respond. But one of the things he did notice is that every time I thought the dog was an odor, I dropped the leash. Even on the unknowns, if I thought he was an odor, I dropped the leash. My dad said, "Why are you dropping that leash?" I said, "Because he's an odor." He said, "How do you know?" "You don't know. This is an unknown problem." And I said, "Because of the way he's acting." He said, "No, you don't know." I stopped dropping the leash. False response problem went away. He went back to being Johnny on the spot. He still threw changes, and I learned the patience to let him work through those changes, let him work through and go, "Okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for," and move on. And that's something that comes with experience, and something that, it's hard to do. Sometimes we're making the mistakes. The Clever Hans effect is rampant. Like in that other video that I made, is this really a search? That dog never showed a change. And that handler called alert. And that dog got reinforced. Dog's like, "Okay, why am I getting reinforced?" Whatever happened right before that handler reinforced him for it, that's what he thinks is his contingency. Or you're not presenting. I'm sorry, y'all don't do search patterns, but you know what? When you want to be efficient and you want to get through something quickly, and you want to make sure that everything's covered, instead of having a dog that runs around with like a chicken with its head cut off, when accuracy matters, you do a search pattern, because you need to make sure that that dog doesn't miss anything. Record keeping. That is going to be another video, as it is much longer. I'm going to be doing one for competition, and then canine, doing one on y'all's too. If you've been in canine, if you've been in detection for at least 10 years, then you know who I am. I'm the daughter of Stephen Nicely. And the way that record keeping is presented is not the way that it should be. You shouldn't use records to defend your dog's reliability in court. You should use your records to train your dog to be more reliable, so that when you go to court, you just hand him over. And I'm working on something right now that's going to literally make it to where it's going to tell you everything you need during training. As long as you put the right in as long as you're honest about your information, it's going to tell you where things are maybe starting to go somewhere, because that's going to look good in front of a judge when it shows you're proactively using this to train the dog. That way you don't have a dog that looks good on paper. You have an actual good dog. It's taking the opinions and the subjectivity out. You train using your training records. When it's time to go to court, all you do is hit print. There you go. Let that expert witness try and poke a hole in that, because I'm taking out all of the opinions. I'm taking out all the subjectivity to where their expert can't give an opinion. unless you don't use it properly. But back to record keeping for competitions. And this is canine as well. One of my bomb dogs that I had, he was my one that actually ended up being my one for contract work. He was started by another trainer. And when I got him, he was a mess. He had a huge false response problem. He responded to heroin. And he had just a false response problem. Every time I would train unknowns with the trainer that originally trained him, putting my aids out, not a problem. Never false responded. When I did it with somebody else, that's where the problems were. And, I went through everything. I couldn't find the odor. I couldn't find anything. My dad said, pull his original training records from the old trainer. Put that together. You will find the pattern. And what I found was in training, the aids were typically put out every 2 to 3 minutes apart. And then I noticed when I was training with him on the unknowns, the aids were always 2 to 3 minutes apart. And then I also noticed when I was doing unknowns with other handlers and he false responded, it was every 2 to 3 minutes, between 2 and 3 minutes, that he would false respond between each hide or whenever the hide had search had started. Started spacing him out on his ability to go past that 2 minutes. Started learning, hey, within a week, problem solved. And that's something that, going back to basics, obedience to odor, all these other things, has nothing to do with that and has everything to do with the human factor. Basically, it was the human factor that was causing his issue. Once I fixed that, which, like I said, had I not had my training records, I would have never figured it out. I would have never known. I would have been guessing, like a lot of the sport people tell you to do. Oh, try this, try this, try this. Go back to basics. You should be looking at your records. That's where it's going to tell you. Had I not recorded those false responses with detail, I'd have never found that out. And then when it comes to pairing odor, you'll see dogs sometimes, especially when they get moved to having to choose between more than one aid. The dog will put its nose on one and you'll click. He'll put his nose back on there. You'll click. Put his nose back on there. If you don't click fast enough, they move their nose to the next one. No click. So they move it back to that one. Click. Are you reinforcing the dog putting its nose in the box because there's a box there? Putting its nose on the tin because there's a tin there? Or are you reinforcing odor? Many of these dogs aren't even breathing when they go back and put their nose on it. They look for it. They use their eyes, put their nose on it, and wait. There's no change in behavior. There's nothing. And that's a big mistake that's being made, which is leading to other mistakes. Because your dogs are searching with their eyes. That's why I call this nose first. Because I'm bringing you back to the way it's done, which is the dog's nose first, not the eyes. So there's some things to think about when your dog makes a mistake, about how to handle those mistakes. Let that dog make the mistake. Record it. Record everything about it. I'm going to make a video on record keeping, I promise. So, when your dog makes a mistake, it's okay. Let that dog make the mistake. Record it. Find the pattern. And train. If you don't let that dog make a mistake, You're never going to find out why. So see you on the next video.